Whether your house is a tree stump or falling water, they all need a good front door. Carved by Scottish masons and their apprentices, some of whom are slaves. Front door at the White House is a masterpiece of thistles and acorns and whatnot, and it's always impressed me as a very delicate piece of work. I'm Kurt Wallner. Let's take a look at this doorway, shall we? The way I want to do this drawing is to look straight in at the doorway, just like that photograph that we had seen. And that just means that I have a wall that the doorway is on, and then the floor comes out. So it's just those two surfaces that I need to map out. I begin with a nice clean piece of paper, and then I go to the computer to look at the floor plans that I've found with 4-foot sections indicated. And I've divided them into numbers and letters so that I can transfer all of that to my plan sheets. So I do plans of everything to make sure that I know exactly what it is that I'm trying to draw. I usually do these at 1 inch equals 5 feet, and somehow this makes me feel better that I know exactly what I'm trying to draw. Okay, so this one's pretty easy because it's just a flat wall with the floor coming out, and I don't have to do any involved perspective or any nonsense like that. So next thing that we have to do is transfer what I know about the scale of this thing and enlarge that to the size of the drawing that I want to do, which is, in this case, it's about 12.5 inches tall. So my job here is to scale the thing up, and it's 5.5 units high. So if I want to make that 12.5 inches tall, then I have to divide 12.5 inches by 5.5 units, and then that's how I can establish my grid, both up and down and side to side. So begin making all of those horizontal lines and the vertical lines, and then I have to establish my vanishing point. Now each one of these squares represents 4 feet. So if your 6-foot tall person was standing in front of this door, it would be around 5.5 feet, some 5-6 feet. I'm going to establish the vanishing point at 5 feet off the floor, and then have all of the lines radiate out from that. So the next step is to draw the elevation of the door onto the grid, referencing the images that I have, the plan and the pictures that I've found on the computer. Just draw the whole thing onto the grid. Since the doorway and my method of looking at it is straight on, it's symmetrical, so I'm only drawing half of it. And then you take the piece of paper and you fold it in half, and then placing it down on the drawing table and backlighting it and pressing down very carefully on it, you can trace the other half. It's a lot easier this way. So at the end of all that, we have the design of the doorway on my grid. And the next step is to turn it into relief. So the parts that stick out from the wall are drawn in perspective. Start out with covering the grid plan with a new piece of paper, and we begin to sketch in the dimensionalized part. And I'm going to concentrate on the column, or the sort of like really deep pilaster on the front wall. So the elevation shows me where things that stick out from the wall are, and using the vanishing point as a guide, that shows me how much tilt to give the whole thing. And it's very difficult around these column bases. It's very tricky. And when I got finished with it, and when I compare it against the photographs of the real thing, I can see that I have made a mistake. The column, the bottom of the column is too fat and squatty, or it's not squatty enough, I'm not sure, but it's too tall, and it needs to be brought down. The question is how much brought down. So by consulting the original plan elevation, I can see that the column is just a little bit above my number 1 hash mark, which is 4 feet off the ground. And as I look at what I had done on the elevation, it's way beyond that 4 foot mark at number 1. It's just too high up. So what we have to do is bring that down by erasing, oh, I hate doing this, erasing the taller version and drawing it in lower. And I think that this looks lots better. Now we have to put in all of the other places that stick out from the wall, and you had to spend a lot of time working with the entablature that's over the doorway and its coins, or not its coins, that's the wrong phrase, it's dentals. So there are small dentals, and then there are the big ones, and I had to count those off and make sure that everything was okay in this reflected diagram. And the nice thing about when you have to put in something that's really small and delicate is that I have this nice kitty helper, Mr. Big, who always pushes my pencil in the right direction. I mean, generally, he's pretty good about these things, but if he gets a little too rambunctious, exile is his lot. Part of what us illustrators inevitably end up doing is exaggerating things, and I'm glad that I do. You can see a lot of the relief because it's sticking out from the building, and because it's such a slight in reality, I can't chop it that finely. I have to exaggerate it a little bit. The next thing that we get to do are these incredible garlands of thistles and flowers and various things that are above the door. This is constantly looking at the photographs and trying to figure out exactly how it all shapes out. It's very challenging work. So that's how the whole thing shapes up. Doorway 101. My intention is in our next chapter to do this as a pen and ink illustration. No color. It ought to be interesting. I hope you can join us. If you're enjoying these videos, please subscribe to the channel if you would. Until next time, thank you for your attention. Bye-bye.